We're scared of Bob. We're really frightened. La, 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 la. That's really... Can you turn us down? Sorry.
It's really intense.
I don't know what's going on there. Do-do-do-do, then a
My
better
mic
day.
isn't even on. I can hear myself on your mic.
So let's start giving. There are people crying.
Crying.
We're saving our own lives. It's true. Finally broke their silence and lost their shit about some of the
Really?
seedy stuff that goes on there.
All right.
A very long time ago, I had a conversation where I was half joking, half being serious with a friend of mine about how comic retail was full of crooks and perverts.
Yeah.
But it's nearly 20 years on from that conversation. Anyway, so, I mean, I shouldn't really go on about that because we're not going to talk about it on the show. Hi, James.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm okay.
I like your Titbits. I always got really confused, right? Because I'm sure there was a dirty magazine called Titbits when I was younger, but also like a woman's monthly called Titbits. God, that'd be embarrassing if you bought the wrong one, wouldn't it?
I get the feeling there was only... I remember it. I get the feeling there was only a woman's monthly, and we just got confused with our adult minds.
Maybe. It's possible.
Possible.
No, I left that. That's how I pronounce possible now.
Possible.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm down with that.
Good.
Things. Couple of things we should mention right at the beginning so that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
The other podcast we do, We Have Issues.
I do a few, mate. I don't know.
You do, but you are like co-host and co-creator and stuff.
Well, thank you. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Can I get an exec producer credit?
That's what that is.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But it got new and noteworthy on
exciting.
iTunes. I still don't really... I realised that I don't really know... everything I ever dreamed might be wrong with me about dealing with something like that all came out, and somebody accused me... lightly, gently accused me of like humble bragging about it.
Name names.
I can't remember. But someone, because I was very backwards about the way I brought it up. But the main reason I was very backwards about the way I brought it up was because I didn't really believe. I kind of thought maybe it was just my iTunes.
No, it's very pleasing, isn't it? I was very happy. I was having you let me know on Friday last week, and I'd gone into Winchester Christmas Market with my family, so my daughter Nicola and my parent-in-laws. And I was having a bit of an anxious moment. It was really busy, and we were having a bit of a divery moment about lunch. And so I took myself off to one side, and I found out, and I came scuttling back to tell Nicola, but she was too busy thinking about ordering lunch, so she's quite dismissive.
Wives just don't understand.
No, she don't get it. She likes this show, doesn't really care for the other one.
Yeah, so that's good. The reason I bring it up on this show, it isn't just to pat ourselves on the back. Does seem to have resulted in a bit of an uptick in listeners.
Oh, that's exciting.
But the thing is, it is only in England and Ireland.
But soon the world.
No, which is still really good. But I haven't been able to work out how it happened, but it seems to have literally been based on 1 or 2 extra reviews on iTunes.
How do we know? How do you know that it's not, they have a team of podcast listeners at Apple HQ, and they listen to it and go, oh, you know, this is really good. This is blowing my socks off. I'm going to put this on new and noteworthy. It can't be an automatic algorithm, I'm sure.
Can't be.
No. Do those things even exist? Have you ever seen an algorithm in the wild?
No. In fact, I think you're right. I'm not convinced they're a real thing.
No.
But I guess the message is, I think this show, being on whatever episode it's in, we're in the 60s now, I think.
Yeah.
It's probably too late for us to be new and noteworthy.
Yeah.
But if you do like what we do, please do. This is not you, James. I know that you, by turns, really like what we do and feel really weird about even speaking to other people outside your own house.
I do, which makes the amount of podcasts I do a bit weird.
Yeah.
But I don't have to face the people I'm talking to when I'm doing this. I'm just looking at you.
Yeah, and I'm not a person.
No, I find your face calming.
Is it the beard softens everything, doesn't it?
It's your hirsute nature that really helps.
There has to be one shorter, slightly angrier, hairy person in any working audio male duet.
Although to be
double
fair,
act or whatever.
I think I'm hairier than you. It's just facially and hedgely, I'm not as hairy. But like, I think my overall body fur is.
I think that what you're doing is you're going on mass or whatever. There, you are just naturally taller than me.
Mm-hmm.
But look, I'm pretty hairy.
Yeah, I'm hairier than that.
Yeah, but not on your face.
Arms.
Well, your arms are hairy. Oh, your arms are really hairy.
Yeah, I've got hairy fingers.
But you're not growing that much hair on your face at the moment.
I'm choosing not to.
So you've got your Adam Buxton.
Yeah.
You've got Anthony and Thingy Carboni, who do We Have Concerns.
Yeah.
And the littler, angrier one in that duo. There must be a better word than duo. He's got a beard, I think, as well.
Right.
Sometimes, I don't know. I think it might just be short men feel they've got to do something to rise to get people's attention because we're shorter and people look straight over the top of us.
When I grow a beard, it's usually to hide behind it.
Yeah. I mean, there's an element of that as well. Also, laziness.
Yes, that's very much comes into play.
But, yeah, so I don't know if it's probably too late for two grown men at this point. But if you do want to leave, if you do like what we do, please do leave a rating and review at iTunes or your podcatcher of choice.
Right to the Times.
I'm not even sure that iTunes is it might not be the main player anymore. I don't know.
No, nor do I.
Do people use Spotify? They're not doing podcasty stuff, really.
No, and I'd rather we went on Google Play and made a big show about it.
Yeah. It's the conversation for another time because I haven't really thought as much as I should about it. But I know, James, that you probably aren't as bothered about Taylor Swift as I am.
And I really wasn't that aware of her until she said she was going to do Google Play, and I thought, well, fair enough.
But I've been very surprised by how much Billy Bragg cares about it all.
Billy Bragg cares a lot about many, many things.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we both love him.
Actually, I saw him talking about it the other day and he had to go back to his defence of his nice house in Dorset, I noticed. Because you're not allowed to be a socialist if you've had a successful career.
No. Well, I mean, you're not allowed to be a socialist if you've had a successful career and have spent that money on yourself. I think if you had a successful career and gave all of that money away and lived in a bus shelter, then that'd be okay.
Is that's true socialism? It's giving everything away.
I think so, yeah.
I'm sure that's Buddhism.
I think that's what Bob Geldof does.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bono.
Just
maybe he should have changed the line to "Tonight, thank God I'm me, you fucking plebs."
I think it's appropriate that you popped on the plebs there.
Good.
It seems, James and I immediately prior to recording this, we're talking about the line that Bono has changed. Now, I've always had trouble. It probably wasn't Bono who changed it, but I've always had trouble with the Bono voiced line in "Do They Know It's Christmas?" Feed the World, Do They Know It's Christmas? Where he says, "Tonight, thank God it's them instead of you." I've always been a little bit uncomfortable with that because it sounds horrible.
See, I've actually always been quite comfortable with the line itself. So I haven't got a problem with people being forced to accept their own privilege.
No, whereas I obviously have a huge problem with that.
You can't accept your own, can you?
It just upsets me that would be a sentiment that, like, anyway.
Look at you with your Mediterranean male privilege.
I think it is possible to have empathy for people without like being glad that it's not, because it suggests a gladness that you aren't in the same boat, which I understand, but it just seems weird. Anyway,
now whenever I see someone less fortunate than me, I think thank God that's not me. I'm so happy. I'm really glad it's them. particularly that person I'm looking at. You look like you're quite feckless.
I'm glad I didn't make the same life decisions that they made. That clearly means they deserve to be where they are right now.
Although, to be fair, given recent events, I'm a bit more cautious about that now.
Bill Hicks used to say, well, I mean, he only said it once, but the nature of the recording medium is that I've heard him say it lots of times because I've played it back lots. And, you know, he's a stand-up, so he probably repeated it a few times, but he says in a piece on a homeless New Yorker that he stepped over, that he's got sympathy for those guys. He suggests that there's a trinity that he suggests. He says that the right friends, the right woman, or the right job, and he'd have ended up in exactly the same place, which I think is it's kind of removing a bit of personal responsibility from his own situation. But I kind of know what he means. There's a story that we've been talking about a lot in my immediate family about there's this relatively well known around the Peterborough area tramp. I can't remember his name, but about whom there are lots of stories and lots of folklore about where he ended up, and where he came from and where he ended up.
Every provincial town has one of those. Like Winchester, where I grew up, had a burping Ron. Was ours.
They're not the same as, because the thing is, when I first came to Southampton, I was quite surprised because I lived very near the Central Parks, which we're recording quite near to, by quite how many drunks there were congregating in the middle, because I'd never seen anything like that. And they're generally quite unapproachable. But yeah, we're talking about...
There's still a few superstars of Tramp, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Who have a sort of mostly apocryphal mythos built up around them.
Yeah.
Although isn't a myth by its very nature apocryphal.
I think so, yeah. But that's okay. No one expects us to be a thesaurus.
That's true.
Yeah, that particular trampy thing. That particular thing has been on my mind.
Hobo.
In his case, the most persistent story is that his wife, that he was a headmaster or something, and his wife got killed on the particular road that he tended to stick around on. And the stories, the amount of the story that we can be certain probably did happen is that he used to stay in one bus shelter, and at some point vandals burned the bus shelter down, and then the locals kind of clubbed together to buy and build a new one.
Build him a new one, yeah.
But with a front door, with a door on it, so that he'd be like...
One of the things I've noticed, talking to people from different towns, more often than not, part of the mythos around them is actually they're rich.
Yeah.
And they don't need to be a tramp at all, and he's sitting on a fortune, and he just chooses to be this way, which I don't know if that's a way of like people trying to make themselves feel better, that these individuals are usually figures of fun. I can think of two in particular in Southampton, who was an older Southeast Asian looking guy, and a woman who I imagine was in her 40s that I can't remember, she's the crying something they used to call her, because she always looked like she'd been weeping. But she had a more tragic tale attached to her than, not really sure. I think the I don't know, Chinese or Japanese, not wishing them. I don't want to pin my flag to his mast in terms of his ethnicity.
Oh, the really small guy.
Yeah.
Kind of bent right double over.
I'm sure I heard a myth of him being wealthy and just choosing to live this strange shuffling life on the streets, which it can't be true, I'm sure.
But on the other hand, though, it's just difficult to imagine how people survive or how they function at all.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we've
but tonight, thank God it's them.
Instead of we've got sidelined into homeless people when what I really wanted to talk about very briefly was dissecting worlds, but.
I believe both of them are currently homed.
Yeah, Bono's lyric being changed to something like "Tonight we're reaching out and touching you or them or whatever." It's not a good idea with Ebola victims.
No, I was watching a doctor today who sort of said you shouldn't shake hands. He said he does a sort of Roman style greeting of your fist on your heart.
Yeah.
I hope he shouts Imperator when he does.
I hope so. Yeah. You've got to, haven't you?
Yeah, I'd have to.
But yeah, Dissecting Worlds, the reason I want to mention them is they very, very kindly, they have a little section after the main show The most recent show actually was about they take a different subject each season of episodes, and it's a general theme. And this time it's espionage. So this week they had a very interesting guest whose name escapes me.
Dissecting World, sorry, that's a podcast on the Geek Syndicate Network.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
It is, and they. This time around, they've been discussing espionage. In the last episode, they were talking about espionage and where it intersects with horror. Mm-hmm. And they had a very interesting conversation. And then after the episodes, they have like a little, each of them, Kihar and Matt, recommend something that they've been into that week
nice.
Or whatever. Kihar recommended a book. Mm-hmm. That's no good to us. But Matt suggested this show.
Oh, that's very nice of him. Thank you, Matt.
Which was very nice. So if you are listening because you heard about us on Dissecting Worlds, I'm sorry if you feel you were promised conversations about wanking and poop.
I don't do wanking much.
We haven't really talked about that yet this episode.
No.
But that was very kind of them. Also, on the Geek Syndicate, this week's episode of Geek Syndicate, they were talking about a tweet that I tweeted out.
Oh, lovely.
Which was very nice. So they talked about that. They quoted that, and it was good. They had a nice conversation. It was about Doctor Who. They couldn't remember who I was, which is a bit disheartening because I know both of them. But I mean, I've got a fairly forgettable surname.
You can't remember everything, though, can you?
No. Where would you keep it?
Exactly.
What do we normally talk about, James?
Our feelings and our children.
How are your feelings at the moment?
A bit dicey. I went back to work today. It's my first day back at work, which was I was producing an impressive amount of sweat by the time I got there. I walked to work, but it was a very cold day. I was producing more sweat than possibly should have been reasonable. But it went okay. It was all right. I kept it together. I'm doing half days for a week.
How were people with you? Because presumably, how many of them know what's going on?
Very few. No, but people were generally quite nice.
Don't they listen to this podcast?
No, fortunately not. No, but people were okay. They're a reasonably friendly bunch. And sort of, I think it's important to get myself into the right mindset at work. I can take it a little bit too seriously sometimes. So I think it's just sort of relaxing into it, really.
You're a passionate man, though, and you care about your work.
Yeah, a bit too much, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
Gets the better of me.
Yeah. How are you feeling now, though?
Okay.
Because we're recording at lunchtime.
Yeah, a bit wire twiddly, but
that's just you now, though.
That is true. I'm a bit anxious, but not so anxious that I can't do a podcast. When there's been a lot of that, including last Thursday on We Have Issues, and that was driven by a visit to a toy shop. Strangely enough, but there we go.
Which toy shop?
Smith's in Fareham.
Oh, I don't know it.
No, it's good prices. We're almost done with Scarlett's Christmas shopping.
Have you been barred from all of the toy shops in Southampton?
No, but Smith's is very good value. It's almost we got a Smurf, a decent sized cuddly Smurf for £1.
Blimey!
Yeah, and Scarlett's very fond of Smurfs. Also, Nicola and I were having a conversation about we were buying some stocking fillers. We've got about a £20 budget. The creator, we've bought us some bigger presents. We've got about a £20 budget to buy some stocking filler stuff, and I wanted to get some dinosaurs, some little dinosaurs, and some Matchbox cars. Nicola wasn't sure, and we're having a conversation about, although people don't intend to give gendered presents, because of the way that society indoctrinates us in terms of gender roles, no one's bought her a set of cars. She had a pink carport when she was a baby, but since then no one's really bought her any, and we bought some toy cars for our nephews that stayed at our flat for them to play with when they came round a while ago, and she's appropriated those. Although, to be honest with you, they're a bit battered now. She doesn't play with them very often. And Nikki and I were having a bit of a to and forth about whether we should get these for her or not. And on Sunday, she was actually rooting about in her toy box trying to find some cars, and told Nikki she wanted some cars to play with, so we're going to buy her some Matchbox cars to play. But I was saying to Nikki, it's about, she doesn't play with cars because she doesn't have any, and she's never really been presented them as a choice.
Yeah.
You know, it's always been you don't think to. So I'd like to at least offer her the choice to have toys that might traditionally be seen as boys' toys, because she's got a great imagination. I'm sure she'll love playing with them.
I have been... Amy and I agree on the broad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be too stereotypical with stuff. But I think, like you, I'm way more preoccupied about the gender stuff than Amy is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's... I know that he's getting... Don't listen, Noah. I know he's getting a doll for Christmas.
Cool.
Which is good. And we recently got... my sister gave us an old, like, cooker thing.
Yeah.
Which is really the first of those domestic toys he's had. And he does really like it. He doesn't really know what he's doing at this point. But I was a bit irritated when I looked around and realised that was the first thing like that he'd got. Not just because I'm trying to be idealistic about stuff like that, but because, and conscious of stuff like that, but because we've actually read, and I kind of, it makes sense to me, that children, especially boys, I think we've talked about it on the show, if they see their dad doing housework and if they have toys that do housework, they just end up being more like rounded characters and more helpful and more helpful and better at domestic stuff, which is really useful because God knows that, like, my situation was I spent an awful lot of my life living on my own. Had I not had a couple of years as a vegetarian, so having to cook for myself with the safety net of being in my parents' house, I wouldn't have known what the hell was going on when I eventually lived on my own. I'd be living like every other student was when I went away, and I probably did eat my fair share of crap, but I would have really struggled, you know. So I think that's kind of important, and we have ended up with a lot of cars. I'm slightly more worried about, and Amy thinks I'm a bit ridiculous about this, I'm worried about him having too many toys, because he's got, it feels like a lot, and I'd rather he wasn't having to choose between toys, because he's constantly distracted.
See, I'm the other way. I don't mind Scarlett having a choice of toys. It's fine, you know.
It's not about excess so much as I feel like and again, I might have picked this up from some pop psychology thing or whatever, but I think that you develop your imagination. I think your imagination develops better when you're having to work out ways to play with the same toys rather than casting from one thing to the next, which is he's never shy of. He has to crawl over his blocks to get to something else because the blocks come out and they just go all over the floor. He's surprisingly good at putting they're like giant Lego blocks. They're not Duplo, but they're like Duplo. He's always been surprisingly good at putting those together, considering he can't use any words yet.
He says "at" a lot, which I love.
You know what that is? He's talking to your dogs. Is it normally when the dogs are around?
Yeah, and the guinea pigs.
Because he probably thinks they're really small dogs.
Yeah, probably. He, if you're worried though about him using gender stereotype toys, he quite often crawls into Scarlett's bedroom when he's over, and starts rooting about in her toys. So.
Oh, nosy little sod. I'm sorry about him.
He's lovely. I like mornings when he's over.
He's
always very smiley.
We had a nice weekend with him this weekend. He's, it's always nice actually, but it was particularly nice. When I say we had a nice weekend with him, what I actually mean is Amy and I only argued once, and it resolved really quickly. Yeah. And this is one of those weird things where I really do wish that the grown-ups in our lives were more reliable narrators or reliable historians or whatever. We're trying to work out what to do about double buggy.
Yeah.
Because for at least a year probably, we're going to have need of... Noah's still going to need a buggy, and we're going to have another baby. And we aren't really sure about the ones that are like double-decker, although we're...
No, they're weird, because one kid basically looks like they're in the parcel bit.
Yeah, but we're starting to come round a little bit on that, because, of course, we're about to buy a house. we've got a nice car. It's a Corsa, but those aren't big. And so, on the one hand, we've got to work out what's practical in terms of getting in and out of the house, but we also have to work out what's practical in terms of what we can transport in the car.
Yeah.
And people used to have babies very, like, the gap between babies wasn't huge. You know, people didn't really used to plan out that much. If they wanted a family of a certain size, and they didn't have the, everyone couldn't afford to just go out and buy a people carrier the way most people seem to be able to now when they have like 2 children, so they decide they need a 7-seater or something like that. And so we've just been trying to we spent a lot of time trying to get our heads round and disagreeing about what we needed to get in terms of that and what we could afford and stuff like that.
You didn't really have the booster seats that you have to worry about now, though, did you? Basically, children were just slung in the back and left to slide about on vinyl seating.
That's what the footwell's for, isn't it?
Exactly. I remember my aunt in the 80s had a Volvo, and it had rear-facing seats in the boot, which was just the most exciting treat in the world. So we went to Auntie Jean's and got a trip in her car, and I got to sit in the boot. God, I love that.
It seems like an alien world now.
I remember once, it must have been sort of 7 or 8, lying across the laps of 3 adult relations in the back of my parents' car, so we could all fit in.
I mean, we're all right though, aren't we?
Well, I have my moments.
Yeah, but I don't think that's because of the way we were seated in cars.
Well, I don't know. I haven't started my counselling yet.
Well, yeah, that's true. But it is kind of weird. I guess they didn't have that to consider, but it's just. So that was the one argument we had was in Babies R Us. But to be fair, I think that was mainly the fault of the woman who eventually helped us was very helpful. But we had to deal with a fairly sullen teenager who just looked straight through us immediately before that. And so it's kind of, it wasn't like the last time we went in Babies R Us. I think they've cut back on staff.
Really?
Yeah, it's the economy, isn't it?
I don't know, the baby economy. I thought we were experiencing a baby boom. You would have thought now would have been a boom time for Babies R Us.
But the more babies there are, the less they need to, like Babies R Us are like, well, there's going to be loads of babies. We don't need to have the wow factor of actually having staff on hand who can help people.
The shit sell itself.
Yeah, it will. And largely, I think it does. Yeah. They still seem to be a lot of, it was quite nice, going around, I think it was Mother Care, and seeing all of the other expectant mums and stuff, and thinking, oh, she's pregnant, that's cute, and then completely forgetting that I had my own pregnant person next to me. We got him his first. Oh, you would have seen them this morning. His first proper shoes.
Do you know, I didn't really look at his feet this morning.
Wow, why would you?
I was a bit preoccupied with going to work, to be honest with you. He smiled at me, went at the dogs, and that was enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't notice people's shoes. Why would you? But it's because I didn't realise there's a distinction between cruising shoes for when they're not really putting their weight on them properly or whatever, and actual shoes. Yeah, which seems like a cynical way of getting more money out of you. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. They are much softer. His cruiser shoes, I think, they're not built for. They're a bit cheaper. They're not really built for heavy duty usage. So they're basically like the trainers I always end up buying from JD Sports for a tenner.
Yeah. You're buying cruising cons.
Yeah. They're not. I've had to. I've had to downgrade from any sort of Converse type shoes. The ones I'm wearing now are hand-me-downs. I've got a pair of the good thing about buying that £12 pair of trainers from JD Sports is that for at least 3 or 4 days, that it's quite a comfortable experience.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that, you spend your whole time worrying that they're about to fall apart.
Big drop off.
Yeah. Very, very steep drop off.
Quite good. Scarlett managed to give him a bollocking this morning, though, which I quite enjoyed.
What did he do? I'm assuming he did something.
Yeah, he picked up the digital clock we have on our TV cabinet.
Oh, he loves a bit of digital.
And Scarlett's obviously been told off for playing about with it before because she changes the time. So she was basically trying to wrest control very gently. She's very good with him, but she's trying to wrest control of it. He didn't care for that at all.
Did he cry?
He did a bit, but only sort of until she relented.
He's taken to grizzling when told no a little bit recently. And I have to be careful about, like, not laughing at him when that happens, because it is so silly. And when he's tired, he has started doing that thing. He quite likes lying on the floor. I don't know if you've noticed that. And sometimes he'll do it for fun. Yeah. But sometimes he'll just seem to run out of steam and go face down onto the floor.
Stack it, yeah.
And I guess maybe they all do that, do they?
Oh, God, yeah.
But that'll be his...
God, I do it, mate.
Did Scarlett used to bang her head a lot?
All the fucking time.
Why? Why do they do it? Doesn't it hurt?
I guess so, but they're a bit silly at that age, aren't they?
Precocious little sods.
Yeah. There was a point where I kind of wanted to put her in a rugby hat.
Because it's worrying.
It is, but... Yeah.
We've got him in a little seat that goes on the... It's probably our most sturdy chair, our most sturdy kitchen chair, because it's the only one we didn't get from Gumtree for like 20 quid for the table and set.
Nice.
And it was probably 40 quid actually. I'm trying to like get hold of some of that poverty dollar, but I don't think it's going to work.
No, yeah, I'm not buying it.
The next Jack Monroe. That's me.
I've seen the row of houses you're buying your new house in. I don't feel any... I started going on at Nicola going, oh, that's not fair. I want to live in a house like that.
The good
They're
news...
nice, aren't they? They're lovely.
The good news is that we won't be able to afford to do anything for the next 5 years.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah, so, I mean, if that's any consolation, I have to like it because I'm not going to be allowed to... We are trying to buy a house. Nothing's definite. This is to the listener. Nothing's definite until you've moved in, I have come to discover in the last year. But we have ended up going for... We had two budgets. There was the budget where we could still afford to do stuff.
Yeah.
And there was the budget where literally nothing can go wrong for the next 5 years.
But they're such nice houses. Why would you want to go out?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We're just going to not be allowed to. We won't be able to. So, I
mean, I bought a flat that I tolerate, and we've not been able to go out for the last 10 years.
It's difficult. I don't want to, don't make me start examining my privilege here on the podcast. We've been doing that for too many.
Are you going to put a palm tree in your... Oh, hello.
Try again.
Are you going to put a palm tree in your front garden? Because I have noticed in the area there is an extraordinary amount of palm trees in people's front gardens.
We could, but then if we had a few people over for a party, the fourth person wouldn't have anywhere to park their car. So,
okay,
it's ridiculous. I don't know why you'd even need that big a driveway.
Oh, right. No, we had a really big one when I lived in with my parents.
It's ridiculous. But, I mean, it's kind of okay, isn't it? Like, your parents had a house like that. You probably never felt like they didn't deserve it.
Well, no, we had a big front garden.
Yeah.
And then they bought the house because Maggie said we could buy the houses off her. And then, I don't know, someone died, so they decided to do a drive. Because we lived in a cul-de-sac, and the parking was always a bit of a nightmare up the top. Because you had, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 houses at the top of the cul-de-sac and enough parking for about 4 cars.
Because
it was built in the early part of the 19th century when, the worst you'd have had to worry about is parking your horse somewhere.
The thing about one half of the drive is that it's almost it's terrifying. If you park the car there, you have to yank the handbrake on. You get out of the car. And immediately you're dropping back 2 or 3 because the whole thing's built on a hill.
Yes.
It is, I mean, it does feel excessive, but then at the same time, I'm
Rubbish.
40.
Yeah, no, you're allowed a house.
I'm
like
40
that
with 2 kids, and it's not like it's not going to be difficult.
Yeah. Are they going to get a room each in this house?
Yeah. There are 3 bedrooms, so, but I mean, I don't know, and I might have a room for, the computer and stuff.
Wouldn't that be 4?
Well, it's not really a bedroom, it's converted garages.
Oh, right. Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's a weird house. Listener, if we get it, I'll invite everyone round for a housewarming party.
I don't become, I'm sick. I'd love a place like that. It's really la-di-da, listener.
It's not really la-di-da.
It is la-di-da.
So anyway, so what else? So we've talked about your mental health. How are you feeling in general?
Mate,
aside from the work,
Yeah, okay.
You were looking forward to going back to work, though.
Was I?
Well, no, you weren't looking forward to going back to work. There was an element of something that I couldn't relate to at all, which was you felt guilty about being at work.
I'm glad I don't feel the guilt of not being at work.
Has that alleviated at all?
I think so.
See, I don't feel that.
No, I definitely do. I think the thing is because I picked up a wage packet for the 2 months that I'm not there.
Oh.
And that really made me feel guilty. Well, I've not earned this. I've just been sat on my arse watching Trailer Park Boys. Fucking hell.
Trailer Park Boys, that's our little homage to Jurassic World.
That's the T-Rex early warning system's working really well around here.
Oh, it's the same girl who was giving me the stink eye earlier.
Slammed the door so loud it made something fall off the fucking door. It's really impressive.
So, listener, should I feel guilty?
Yes.
It's a good idea James, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and apparently it's a good idea to increase listener engagement. It's a good idea to pose a question at the end that people can feel engaged with. Even if they don't respond, it makes them feel like they're part of the thing.
I've got a question.
What's that?
Would you like to send me a picture of yourself in your underwear?
Oh, yes. Would you like to send James a picture of yourself in your underwear? You don't have to. Yeah. He's not asking you to actually send a picture of yourself in your underwear.
Would you like to? And you can say, yes, I would. Yeah. And we can then make further arrangements.
Yeah. And also, should I feel guilty about the house?
No, I don't think so. Or yes. You decide, listener.
You can talk to us at 2GMPod on Twitter. Mm-hmm. You can talk to us at 2GMPodcast@gmail.com if you want to send us some email. We do like getting emails. They're always lovely. You can talk to James or I on Twitter. I'm Nick Sight.
I'm James MOMB.
Yes, you are. We've also got a page on Facebook. You can find us on Stitcher or iTunes. If you like what we do, please do rate and review, but please also consider sharing us with your friends. That would be lovely. We out.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry. The smoking's going well, though.
Oh, good. As long as the smoking's going well.
I'm so sorry. It's that tickle in the back of my throat again. Right, okay.